Right. Good evening. Welcome to day 9 of this electrical safety specialist course. Today we will start module number 3, establishing an electrical safety work condition, which is based on article number 120 of the standard. So once we have completed this module, it will going to describe the objective of an electrically safe work condition, apply the process for establishing an electrically safe work condition. So these are the two main objectives of this module. So in article number 110, what we covered about the electrical safety program. What are the elements of electrical safety program? So there were 13 elements we discussed. Then we discussed about the training requirement for qualified and unqualified employees. We talked about the responsibility, employee responsibility, post-employee responsibility, and contractor employee responsibility. And then we discuss about the equipment selections um, and utilization of those equipments at a right place. In article number 120, it's all about establish an electrically safe work condition and then perform the job. So things related to the logout and tagout procedure processes, the equipment used for the logout and tagout, and the steps for establishing an electric safe work condition will be covered here in article 120. In article 130, if the work is justified and authorized as per the requirement of article 110.4, then how you will going to carry out those tasks. So that will be covered in article 130, work involving electrical hazards. Okay, so starting with the main point, that by default both OSHA and 70E require that you should perform work after establishing an electrically safe work condition. Both the standard or both the OSHA and 70E does not basically encourage live working. So Article 120 provides the steps for establishing and the method for controlling the electrically safe work condition. So Article 120 is not only about establishing an electrically safe work condition, but it is also about controlling the ESWC as well. What does this mean by controlling? Once you have established an electrically safe work condition, there are chances that uh, that asset or system can be re-energized. Either it is re-energized due to human error, or it may be energized due to some other intentions. Maybe someone deliberately putting those things on the life once it has been put into an electrically safe work condition. So 120 not only talks about the steps for establishing, but also talks about the method for controlling the electrically safe work condition, like uh, once you have received all the clearance, how you should proceed with the normalization of your electrically safe work condition. What is a reverse engineering you need to do? Um, what are the clearance required if the person who has put the logout and tagout is not available? Then what the process said? You should all the things should be jotted down in the logout and tagout procedure. So all the requirements in Article 130 must be applied before an electrically safe work condition is achieved. So by de-energizing, we will not be considering that an asset has been, or the system has been put into an electrically safe work condition until and unless all the steps of the Article 120 has been applied. Then the act of creating an electrically safe work condition require that appropriate PP be worn and work procedure must be followed. So the act of creating an electrically safe work condition is itself a justified and authorized work. So when we are establishing, when we are trying to create an electrically safe work condition, we have to wear the appropriate personal protective equipment, and we have to follow all the work procedures. Once an electrically safe work condition is created, then there is no hazard is there, and then the all the employees, whether they are qualified or unqualified, can interact with those equipment. The main step of the electrically safe work condition is verification. So until and unless the verification for the electrically safe work condition is not done, it cannot be assumed that the equipment is safe to work on. So the steps which we talk about, the verification step, the 3-point verification, in which you are first testing your test instrument, then you are testing the circuits, whether the circuit have been isolated, and then again you are testing your test instruments in order to make sure that the test instruments is working correctly, and you have rightly measured that there is no residual charges are there. So until verification of the electrically safe work condition, it cannot be assumed that the equipment disconnected from the energy source and that it is safe to work on. Yes, any question on this one? Yes, please.
So this residual charge, what we call this?
Okay.
What? Sorry.
So if there is a residual charge, we need to discharge those circuits. Maybe if the cable is put off, but there will be residual charge remain in those cables. So either we should wait for a period of time in which that charge dissipate itself, or if not, then we have to forcefully ground and short that so that the charge is dissipated. So if we are doing that verification, it will going to show us, or it will going to indicate that there is residual charge is there. So in establishing an electrically safe work condition, it talks about that all the stored electrical and mechanical energy should be removed before going into the step for the verification. Okay. Okay, moving to a case study. Mark, an electrician, and John, a helper with no formal electrical training, were installing a new three-phase circuit between an existing energized 400-volt panel board and a new piece of machinery. Mark used protective insulating gloves with leather protector, but did not use any other PP. During the process, the Mark attempted to install a missing bolt from circuit breaker mount on an energized bus bar. He lost controls of the bolt while attempting to screw it into a place. Either the bolt or the mount then contacted another bus bar face, resulting in an arc flash. Mark was seriously injured during the event, while John, who was standing at some distance away, remained uninjured. So it clearly shows that they were working on the life part, which was not justified and authorized. So in exam, they will going to ask and try to test your knowledge whether it was only the employee responsibility or the employer responsibility or both. So if there are some questions related to this type of the scenario, just think of that, whether the employer is responsible only or the employee is responsible too. So 70E standard talks about both. So there is an employer responsibility as well as the employee responsibility. If we look into the employer responsibility, employer ignored the following primary safety principle: develop an electrical safety program, an effective electrical safety program, establish an electrically safe work condition, properly justified energized work process. Employee responsibility. Mark also holds some responsibility for the incident. As the employee, he should have been aware of his responsibility under the NFPA 70. In addition to the requirement listed above, he should have been aware of the following: his ability to meet the definition of a qualified person, whether he was qualified person to perform work on the life system or not, his need for awareness and self-discipline, the training he should have received for the task which he was performing, that is the life work. Okay. Right. What's the message from Mubin? Walaikum assalam, Ramadan Kareem. Moving towards the electrical safe work condition, a state in which electrical conductor or circuit part have been disconnected from the energized part. So normally people think that once they have done this first thing, the equipment has been put into an electrically safe work condition. This is wrong. A state in which an electrical conductor or circuit part have been disconnected from the energized part, locked and tagged in accordance with the established standards, Test it to ensure the absence of voltage and ground it if determined necessary. So we have to follow all these steps in order to make sure, or in order to finalize whether the equipment has been put into an electrically safe work condition or not. So in this article 120, the article 120 is split into further 5 areas. Okay, 120.1 talks about the logout and tagout program as a journal. 120.2 logout and tagout principles. 120.3 logout and tagout equipment. 120.4 logout and tagout procedures, and 120.5 the process for establishing and verifying an electrically safe work condition. So these are further sub part of article 120.1. So 120.1, the logout and tagout program itself. Effective logout and tagout procedure must be written in a manner that can be understood by dash task with establishing an electrically safe work condition. What's your response to this question? Okay, so for this question, because it sounds like that, who is basically tasked with establishing an electric safe work condition, so it goes with A option, qualified person. But generally, when we will read the statement of the NFPA 70, the effective logout and tagout procedure must be written in such a manner that is understood by all the employees who are involved in establishing an electrically safe work condition. So this is the right definition or the concept. So that means it should not be written in such a technical language, or in such a difficult terms that it is not understood by any other person other than the qualified person. Okay, so for this option, I will go with the qualified person, but generally from the exam point of view, they won't be adding this thing. So effective logout and tagout procedure must be written in a manner that can be understood by all the employee who are involved in the establishing, who are involved in the logout and tagout procedure. So that would be the right answer. Okay, any question on this one? Next one, the logout and tagout program must basically all are the right answer as per when you will be going through 120.1. Be applicable to the type and the work experience and training of the employees, meet the requirements of establishing an electrically safe work condition, and it should be applied to fixed, permanent, temporary, and portable equipment. So 120.1A talks about the logout and tagout program. Each employer shall establish, document, and implement a logout and tagout program. The logout and tagout program shall specify logout and tagout procedure to safeguard worker from exposure to electrical hazard. The logout and tagout procedure shall also incorporate the following. It should be applicable to the experience and training of the workers and condition in the workplace. It should meet the requirements of the Article 120, apply to fixed, permanently installed, temporarily installed, and portable equipment. So all type of the equipment which you have in your system, it should be applicable to them. 120.1B talks about the employer responsibility. The employer shall be responsible for providing the equipment necessary to execute the logout and tagout procedure. So the equipment related to the logout and tagout procedure, like logs and tags, those need to be provided by the employer. There was one question in the exam that it's an employee responsibility to bring their own logs from their own homes, something like this. So that was not the right answer. It's an employer responsibility to provide the equipment necessary to execute the logout and tagout procedure. Providing the logout and tagout training to worker in accordance with Article 110.6b. So in 110.6b, we saw the training requirement for the logout and tagout procedure. So it's an employer responsibility for providing the logout and tagout training to workers. Here they are not mentioning qualified employees. They are mentioning workers. That means it will going to involve both qualified as well as unqualified employee. Auditing the logout and tagout program in accordance with 110.5 M3. So logout and tagout program need to be audited every year as per the requirement of 110.5 M3. Auditing the execution of the logout and tagout procedure in accordance with 110.5 M3. Again, this is per every year. So auditing also, responsibility of the auditing is with the employer. 120.2b talks about the logout and tagout principles. So 120.2b is further divided into A to H, like employee involvement. So here it's not says about the qualified employee involvement. In the logout and tagout procedure, we need to involve the employee who will be directly or indirectly affected, or who might have directly or indirectly impact on the logout and tagout process. Then the logout and tagout procedure, control of energy, electrical circuit interlocks, control devices, identification, coordination, and forms of control of hazardous electrical energy. So starting with first thing, which process exists to update single line diagram and how it is ensured that SLDs are up to date? Before diving into the principles, is there any process exist in your organization about the single line diagram? Because the logout and tagout will be dependent on the up-to-date single line diagram. So for example, in your case, if there is some diversion cables are there, or if some cables have been removed and it has been diverted to another substation. So how frequent your single line diagrams are being updated? For example, before it was like cable was going from substation A to substation B. Now there is a new substation C is there. So cable need to be cut in between, and now the cable will be diverted from substation A to C, and then from C to B. So previously it was directly from A to B. Now the cable has redirected from A to C and then C to B. So if the single line diagram is not being updated and there is a requirement of carrying out a shutdown at substation B, which need to be put into an electrically safe work condition. So a person will go into substation A and will going to put off the cable which is going towards this substation number B. He will going to log out and tag out, and then he will move to substation B in order to verify for the absence of voltage, where he will going to find that this substation is still energized and the bus bars are live. So this is things can go wrong if the single line diagrams are not updated. On the other hand, if the single line diagram is updated, then the information will be available on the SLD that in order to create an electric saver condition in substation number B, you have to switch off the outgoing from substation number C. Okay, from the cable which is feeding from substation C to substation B. So the quicker you are updating those single line diagrams, so that will going to mitigate the risk of wrong operations, and there will be less chances of any incidents happening. Right. So these type of the single line diagrams are normally available, which basically tell us that how many sources are there, and if you want to take a shutdown of this bus bar or this bus bar, what operations you have to perform. Right. Equipment knowledge. Electrical equipment, conductor, and circuit part are still not in an electrically safe work condition while performing the logout and tagout. Yeah, it's true. Electrical equipment, conductor, and circuit part are still not in an electrically safe work condition while performing the logout and tagout. Yes. Moving to next one. 120.2, the logout and tagout principles talks about the employee involvement. Each person, here it's not mentioning qualified person, each person who could be exposed directly or indirectly to a source of electrical energy shall be involved in the logout and tagout procedure. An example of a direct exposure is a qualified electrician who work on the motor starter control, the power circuits or the motor. An example of indirect exposure is a person who works on coupling between the motor and the compressor. Okay. So this person might not be an electrically qualified person, but he might be a person who have a background in mechanical engineering or maybe a simple housekeeping person. Then B talks about the logout and tagout procedure. A logout and tagout procedure shall be developed on the basis of existing electrical equipment and system and shall use suitable documentation including the up-to-date drawings and diagrams. The procedure shall meet the requirements of applicable codes, standards, and regulation for logout and tagging of those electrical sources. So the procedure which we will be developing for the execution will be based on our up-to-date system drawings and diagram which we have. So normally when I was working in the operation department, so early morning we used to have number of shutdowns for transformer change, shutdowns for providing new connections, meter change, etc. and etc. So all those shutdowns were basically the procedures used to be written based on the existing single line diagram, and we were very much dependent on those single line diagrams, and we need to make sure that those single line diagrams are up to date, because normally in distribution companies the situation changes more frequently. If there is some development going on, new substations are being constructed and etc. So those situations used to change very fast. So it's a very important thing that you should keep your single line diagrams up to date. And in industrial sector, this is not the case. The wiring does not change frequently, but there could be some scenario in which one of the electrician have bypassed the breaker and he has make a direct connection. So next time if you want to put create some shutdown, you have simply put off the breaker and then you thought that the outgoing is closed and I can go in and perform the work, but that supply, but actually that was direct. It was not through the breaker. So those things need to be updated in the single line diagram, the correct status of the network. Up-to-date, accurate single line diagrams provide essential information that is needed when creating an electrically safe work condition. The purpose of the information is to clearly indicate all sources of electrical energy that are or might be available at the point in the electrical circuit. If the diagram is inaccurate, employee could be injured as a result of one or more sources of energy that are not removed. Control of energy. All sources of electrical energy shall be controlled in such a way that to minimize employee exposure to electrical hazards. So if we have different type of the sources of electrical energy, maybe we have two sources who are feeding the same bus, or one supply is coming from the utility, another supply is coming from our own solar generation, another supply is coming from our UPS system, etc. So all sources of electrical energy need to be controlled in order to minimize the employee exposure to electrical hazards. D is about electrical circuit interlocks. Then the documentation, including the up-to-date drawings, shall be reviewed to ensure that no electrical circuit interlock operation can result in re-energization the circuit being worked on. So we have to make sure that there is no chances of re-energization of the circuit due to some interlock operation. For example, some person or some qualified person has remotely or locally have put off that circuit, and due to interlock operation it has restrike and have re-energized the circuit. So if we have up-to-date drawings and diagram available, the qualified person will know about this one, and he will going to basically deactivate the interlocking operation for the duration of time in which he's performing the work. So this interlock operation could be related to the ATS operation, like automatic transfer switches. Those will also be covered in this interlock operation. So a diagrammatic drawing is commonly used to determine the possibility of a circuit to be re-energized from backfeeds or through the operation of the remote interlock. It is crucial that the drawing be up to date and it is accurately depict the installation. As an installed circuit or system changes, the single line diagram, schematic diagrams, or similar drawings that are on record should be marked to document the changes in the system. Okay, fine, Mugi. Yes, so this is related to electrical circuit interlocks, that those need to be up to date on the drawings and diagrams which are available, and the qualified person should take into the consideration that nothing can cause the re-energization of the circuit. Control devices. The logs tags shall be installed only on circuit disconnecting means. Control devices such as push buttons, selector switches shall not be used as the primary insulating devices. So logs and tags shall be installed on the circuit disconnecting means. What does this statement means? That the logs and tags shall be installed on those circuit disconnecting part in which you can physically disconnect, or you can see that the contacts have open. So those are basically mechanically opening and closing, right? So circuit breakers or MCB or MCCB in which you are operating some lever and that is causing the physical or the practical breakage of the contacts there. So logs and tags shall be installed only on circuit disconnecting means. The control devices such as push buttons or selector switches shall not be used as the primary insulating device or isolating device. Then it talks about the identification. The log and tag device shall be unique and readily identifiable as a logout and tagout devices. So I can use, if I'm using a blue color log for logout of electrical energy, so I should not use that particular color type of the log for other purpose, like for restricting the access to this substation. So I should not use that log on the substation door for unauthorized access. If I'm putting that blue log on the substation substation, that should reflect that this complete substation is under logout and tagout. Or logout and tagout have been performed from this particular substation, right? So normally I can use other type of the log or other color of the log in order to indicate that that an access is required in order to enter this particular substation or area. And this is not under logout and tagout. This is only for security, theft, and for other reason. Similarly, that same log I should not be used in my office cupboards and another thing, because then it will going to create an issue and a problem that why this particular log is being used here. It shouldn't be in the logout and tagout. So logout and tagout device shall be unique and readily identifiable as a logout and tagout devices. So if those devices are put at some place, everyone should know that this particular circuit or asset is under the logout and tagout. If you have any question, just feel free to ask. All good. Right, 120.2G coordination. When the logout and tagout procedure for different employers must be implemented on the same work site, the procedure must be coordinated with each other, and the employees of each employer must be instructed about any unique aspect of each procedure. So the logout and tagout procedure, if different employers will be working on the same working site. For example, I'm installing a transformer. So one company of the power transformer is there who is installing and commissioning the transformer. There is another company whom I have asked to come and do the installation and commissioning for switch gear, and another company is there who's working on the cable system. And I have established a complete electrically safe work condition for the substation. So when the logout and tagout procedure for different employer must be implemented on the same work site, the procedure must be coordinated with each other, and employees of each employer must be instructed about the unique aspect of each procedure. So in my example, I am basically the host, and I have established an electrically safe work condition for other employers, employee who are belonging to other type of the employer to come and perform the job. It could be vice versa, that that different type of the controls or different type of the segments are with different type of the employers, and a task need to be performed at a particular location. For example, there is a substation in which there is an HV and LV site out there. So HV is dealt by one employer, LV is dealt by another employee. So both will going to establish an electrically safe work condition on a place in which a task need to be performed. So their procedure need to be coordinated, so that they know that no one can energize until and unless the complete work package is completed and the clearance have been given. So this is important. When the logout and tagout procedure of for different employers must be implemented on the same work site, the procedure must be coordinated with each other, and employees of each employer must be instructed about the unique aspects of each procedure. Then it says that if there are procedure for the control of other type of hazardous energy, they must be coordinated with procedure for the control of exposure to electrical hazard. For example, I'm performing job at a particular site where there is some fluid is also running, or there is some gaseous mixture is also there. So in order to perform a work at that particular site, I need to perform an electrical work, but I have to stop the another type of the energy which is also present in that particular area. So I will be establishing my electrically safe work condition. So I will be applying my logout and tagout. So this procedure must be controlled by other type of the hazardous energy which are present in that particular area. So for the duration of time, the other type of the hazardous energy need to be controlled and block. Then finally, it says that the electrical logout and tagout devices can be similar to the logout and tagout devices used for the control of other type of hazardous energy if those devices are only used for such purposes. So if I'm using the logout and tagout device, a blue color logout and blue color log with a similar type of the tagout device for the control of electrical energy, I can use that blue color log and tag for the control of mechanical energy, pneumatic energy, and other type of the energy as well. Until and unless that log and tag is only used for the purpose of logout and tagout, not for any other purpose. Okay, like this is not used, that log and tags are not being used for other purpose like uh, uh, like access control or and anything similar, right? So electrical log and tagout devices can be similar to logout and tagout devices used for the control of other type of hazardous energy if those devices are only used for such purpose. Yes, any question on this one? All good, right? Then it talks about in part F, it talks about the forms of control of hazardous and electrical energy. The objective in controlling the exposure to electrical energy is to ensure that all possible sources of electrical energy are disconnected and cannot be re-energized unexpectedly. The two types of controls are simple logout and tagout and the complex logout and tagout. So in part F, it talks about there are two types of control. One is simple logout and tagout, and the another one is the complex logout and tagout, which are administrative control procedure from the hierarchy of risk control. So logout and tagout falls under the administrative control. Our written logout and tagout plan is not required for the simple logout and tagout procedure. And for the complex logout and tagout, it typically involves more than one energy source, more than one disconnecting means. It requires a single person with overall responsibility and a written plan prepared in advance for each logout and tagout application. So you should know the difference between the simple logout tagout and the complex logout and tagout. Let me explain this simple and complex through different examples. Here, it could be a simple logout and tagout because I'm putting a log on the one breaker, and there is one lock, so it might be representing simple logout and tagout. The qualified person and de-energizing one source of electrical energy and is responsible for their own logout and tagout. Here you can see that the simple logout tagout does not mean that only one qualified person will be performing job. Here it is singular as well as plural as well. The qualified person or persons de-energizes one source of electrical energy and is responsible for their own logout and tagout. It's not saying that and is responsible for his or her own logout and tagout. So it could be I'm disconnecting one source of electrical energy, and there are multiple qualified person who will be performing job on that particular system, which is disconnected from one source of energy. For example, I have established an electricity safe work condition for a substation. In that particular substation, people from a qualified person will be performing job on transformer, will be performing job on cables, switch gears, etc. But the source was only one. I disconnected it from only one source. So that's why it will going to fall under the simple logout and tagout. For the complex logout and tagout, there are multiple source of energy. The person in charge has the overall responsible for a job that has more than one energy source and more than one disconnecting means. So if I need to establish an electrically safe work condition for that same substation, but that same substation is being fed from multiple sources, then it will going to fall under the complex logout and tagout. So the person in charge has the overall responsibility for the job that has more than one energy source and more than one disconnecting means. A written plan prepared in advance is required. So in this particular case, a written plan is required. Okay, and a person in charge should be there who is responsible for all the process. But in the simple logout and tagout, there is no written plan is required, and there is no requirement of person in charge. Individual qualified person will be responsible for their own log and tags. Okay. So from another picture, I've taken this picture from the, I think, handbook. So it's again represent that there is only one disconnecting means, single energy source. Multiple authorized person or qualified person are putting their locks there and locking out. So that will going to fall under the simple logout and tagout. So by seeing the number of locks, we cannot say that it's a simple logout or it's a complex logout and tagout. While on the other hand, if there are multiple energy sources, these energy sources could be electrical, could be other type of the sources. So for that, a person in charge is required who will be putting the locks there. A written procedure is required. He will be putting that key in a group lock box, and that group box will be locked by the individual authorized person. So this is basically a difference between the simple and the complex logout and tagout. In a simple logout, the qualified person de-energizing one source of electrical energy and is responsible for their own log. A written logout plan is not required. A simple log does not place a limit on the number of people who can conduct work on equipment, so employees might need to apply multiple logs. A complex logout typically involves more than one energy source and more than one disconnecting means it requires a single person to maintain overall responsibility, and a written plan is prepared in advance for each logout application. Yes, this point is clear. So if we further summarize the simple logout and tagout and complex. So in the simple logout and tagout, one energy source is there. Procedure do not need to be written for each application. For the complex logout and tagout, procedure need to be written. And if we are performing job where multiple energy sources are there, multiple crews are there, multiple craft is working, multiple locations, and if that work continues for more than one shift, multiple disconnecting means are there, and there is a particular sequence for operation in order to establish an electrically safe work condition, then it will going to fall under the complex logout and tagout. How frequently a logout and tagout program and its procedure must be audited? So it is now talking about the frequency for audit. Yeah, A is the right answer, not to exceed 1 year. Right, so we have seen 120.2, which talks about the logout and tagout principles from A to H. Moving to 120.3, which is related to the logout and tagout equipment, what type of the equipment can be used for the logout and tagout. So NFPA 70, the National Electric Code requirements for disconnecting means require that equipment have a method built in that allows it to be locked in an open position. Any disconnecting means that cannot be locked in an open position must not be used as an energy isolation devices. So those toggle switches or push button, those cannot be used as a primary energy isolating devices. Employer shall provide and employee must use the logout and tagout devices and equipment that are unique and readily identifiable as a logout and tagout devices and used for no other purposes. This is the requirement. Now there are few statements written here. The 5 statements are there. You can refer to Article 120.3 in order to in order to check whether this statement falls for the tag, log, or the logout. For example, contains a statement prohibiting unauthorized operation of the disconnecting means or removal of the tag. So this statement contain the statement is with the tag is right. Contain a statement prohibiting, yeah. So this is basically related to tag. What is related to log? Just review the article 120.3 and try to put your answers here. And we will discuss after a minute. Yeah, let's review. Contain a statement prohibited the unauthorized operation of disconnecting means, that is with their tag. Keys or combination remain with the responsible qualified person. This is related to log. Be able to withstand 50 pound of force to the right angle to the disconnecting means, that this is statement is related to tag. Suitable for environment and duration. This is for both logout and tagout. Sturdy enough to prevent removal without restoring to undue forces. This is related to the log. So if you look into the article 120.3, you will going to find statements, and those statements are covered here. Tag, logs, and other thing. So 120.3c, keys or combination method to identify the person who installed be permitted to be only a log sturdy enough to prevent removal without restoring undue force, suitable for environment and the length of the logout and tagout. Keys or combination remains with the responsible qualified person. So what is key? We know that every log has a key. And what is a combination? Combination is basically those digital number which basically help you in locking and unlocking the logs. So the number if or the code uh, which you can set. Normally in our traveling bags, we have a combination type of the log there. So we put a code 001110 like this. So that is a combination type of the log. It is also allowed. 120.3d is related to the tagout requirements. So the tagout devices shall be readily identifiable as a tagout devices. They should have been have enough capacity to withstand around 50 pounds of the force. Tag shall contain a statement prohibiting unauthorized operating of those disconnecting means or the removal of the tag. Then 120.4 talks about the logout and tagout procedure. 120.4 is further divided into 120.4a and 120.4b. 120.4a is related to planning, logout and tagout procedures, planning 120.4a. So when you are planning for the logout and tagout, what things you need to consider? So there are 5 elements which you need to consider when you are doing the logout and tagout planning procedure. First, you have to determine the or locate the sources of which you basically need to perform certain operations. Then you have to identify the exposed person who will be directly or indirectly exposed uh, to the hazardous energy, and what are the PP required to perform that particular task of the logout and tagout. If it is a complex logout and tagout, then you have to identify the person in charge, and you have to identify whether this logout and tagout is simple logout and tagout or the complex logout and tagout. So this is basically part of the planning process. So Which of the following statement about the simple logout and tagout are true? So in this question, there are more than one answers are correct. Just read each statement and try to give your answer. Yeah, let's review the answer. The simple logout and tagout involves only one qualified person de-energizing one set of conductor or circuit part. This is correct. Simple logout and tagout plans are required for each application. No, written plans are not required. Each worker is responsible for his or her own simple logout and tagout. Yes, this is correct. Simple logout and tagout may be used for multiple disconnecting means. No, this is not. If there are multiple disconnecting means, then it is a complex. Simple logout and tagout may be used for particular sequence. This is the thing related to complex logout and tagout. So only two answer is right. One, A and C are the right answer. Does this picture show a complex logout and tagout? We have already discussed that only seeing the picture and the number of logs, we cannot determine whether this is a simple logout or the complex logout and tagout. What we have to dig in, we have to look whether this there are multiple sources are there or not. So here there are no multiple sources is shown. So it could be simple logout and tagout, or it could be complex if there are more than one energy sources are there. So not necessarily the big difference between the simple and the complex is not the equipment that is used or the number of logs, but the fact that a qualified person must be responsible for the entire procedure and perhaps for the other persons. So these are the different type of the things which we can use for the complex logout and tagout devices. And if we want to implement those in our system. Moving to 120.4b, which is related to elements of control, the logout and tagout procedure, elements of control. So there are 14 elements of control. So in starting, we saw the definition that the Article 120 talks about. Not only talks about the establishing an electrically safe work condition, but it also focus on controlling the electrically safe work condition as well. So these are the elements of control which will going to help in establishing as well as in controlling the electrically safe work conditions. So first one is about de-energizing equipment. So we will going to de-energize equipment. Then about the stored energy, we will see whether the stored electrical and mechanical energy are being released or not. Disconnecting means, what type of the disconnecting means can be used for logout and tagout purpose, who is responsible, how the verification will be performed, testing requirement, grounding requirement. If there is a shift change, how we have to shift the responsibility of the um, logout and tagout procedure from one shift in charge to another shift in charge. Coordination requirement, accountability for personal logout and tagout application, removal of the logout and tagout devices, release before return to service, and temporary release for the testing and positioning. So if we look into the first one, de-energizing, the procedure shall establish the person who performed the switching and where and how to de-energize the load. That who will be performing the switching, the operation person, the person from the operation department will be performing those switching operation, and from where they will be performing those switching operation, and how to de-energize the load. Then it says that the procedure must include the requirement for releasing stored electrical or mechanical energy that could endanger person. So if there are some residual charges, residual energy is there, how you will going to make sure that those energy have been released. Third is about the disconnecting means. The procedure must identify how to verify that the circuit is de-energized, whether you will going to physically view or you will going to ask to rack out the trolley. So if you are racking out the trolley, that means you have disconnected the circuits well. Then it's about the responsibility. The procedure must identify the person responsible for verifying the logout and tagout procedure is implemented, and who is responsible for ensuring the task is completed before removing logs and tags. Right. So it also talks about the responsibility that the procedure must identify the person responsible for verifying the logout and tagout procedure is implemented. So in the complex logout and tagout, this is the responsibility of the person in charge. And for the simple logout and tagout, so this is the responsibility of individual individual qualified employees, that the logout and tagout procedure is implemented. Then about the verification, the procedure must verify that the equipment cannot be restarted. So we have to check whether there is any interlocking operations are there, or and that the equipment can be restarted through any other means. So log out, tag out, and test out as well. So the equipment operating control must be operated and otherwise verified that the equipment cannot be restarted. Then about the testing, it says that the test instrument to be used, the person that will verify the operation of the test instrument and the required PP, the requirement to define the boundary of the electrically safe work condition. So in a substation where there are more than one transformers are there, for example, I'm establishing an electrically safe work condition for a transformer A, the transformer B will remain there, energized. So I will be establishing the electrically safe work condition boundary as well, in order to make this clear that only this particular transformer number A is under electrically safe work condition. Other transformer are energized and live. So requirements to define the boundary of electrically safe work condition. This is very important. The requirement to test before touching exposed parts within the defined boundary. Requirement to retest for the absence of voltage when condition change or job location has been left unattended. So for example, a person have taken some break, toilet break, or lunch break, etc. So during that time period, that site have been left unattended. So there should be a procedure that when you are returning back to work, there should be a requirement to again test for the absence of voltage and to verify that the logs and tags are in place. The planning consideration for methods of verification when voltage measurement cannot be taken. So if you cannot perform the voltage measurement, so what type of the things you can perform in order to verify that the equipment have been put into an electric safe work condition and there is no residual charges are there. Then it talks about the grounding requirement. The grounding requirements are required, including whether the temporary protective grounding equipment should be installed for the duration of the task or only temporarily. So either we should install a grounding equipment or grounding devices to provide grounding to the equipment which are being put into an electric safe work condition. Then it talks about the shift change requirement. A method must be identified to transfer responsibility for logout and tagout to another person when the job or task extends beyond one shift. So for example, we started as a simple logout and tagout in which only one qualified person was performing the job, but the task extends. Now another qualified person have to come and perform the job in another shift. So that simple logout and tagout will be converted into complex logout and tagout. So our written procedure will be required. In that written procedure, we will be mentioning about the shift change requirement, that a method must be identified to transfer the responsibility of logout and tagout to another person when the job or task extends beyond one shift. Or if it was a complex logout and tagout since starting, so the person in charge is responsible to mention those things in the elements of control. Then it talks about the coordination requirement. The procedure must identify how coordination will take place with other job tasks, including those at remote location and the person responsible for the coordination. So if I'm operating at, if I'm sitting at one location and that cable is, or the overhead line is 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer long, and it is providing supply to one customer. So we need to know that if there are multiple jobs are being carried out after establishing an electrically safe work condition for that overhead line. So we need to develop a mechanism for coordination. So we know that after disconnecting this overhead line, there are three parties who are working. One is working on transformer replacement at location A. Another party is working on another transformer location at B, which is being fed from the same line. So there should be a coordination, and we must identify who is the right person who will going to provide us the clearance that the task have been completed, and how we will going to re-energize the circuit. So the procedure must identify how coordination will take place with other jobs or tasks, including those at remote location and the person responsible for coordination, whether we will be accepting email confirmation that the task have been completed, or the verbal communication, etc. Then it talks about the accountability for person. The procedure must identify how to account for everyone that could be exposed to hazardous energy during the logout and tagout. So it need to take into the consideration that that how many people will be affected and how to account them. Yeah, and how to account them that during the execution of this this logout and tagout, how many people who will be directly and indirectly affected by the hazardous energy. Then the logout and tagout application. The procedure must identify when and where the log and tagout applies and addresses. Okay, so where you will going to put those logout and tags in order to establish an electrically safe work condition. So what are the sources which are feeding in to that particular location from where you have to actually disconnect the services. Then removal of logout and tagout devices. The procedure must identify the details for removing logs or tags when the installing individual is unavailable. For example, if person A perform the logout and tagout, now he's not available. So procedure must identify that who will be responsible for removing those logout and tagout in his absence. Then it talks about the release before return to service. The procedure must identify the steps to be taken when the job or task requiring logout and tagout is completed. So once the logout and tagout is completed, so how we will going to release before return to services. Temporary release for testing and positioning purposes. So there could be some task in which we have to energize our electrical equipment and system in order to check whether the equipment is working fine or not, or the repair work which we have carried out, it has actually identified the right fault and the fault have been cleared. So that is covered here. So the procedure must identify the steps and responsibility of a qualified person when job or tasks requiring logout and tagout is to be temporarily interrupted for testing or positioning of the equipment. So how you will going to make sure that that everyone have been informed that this equipment need to be energized in order to check whether it is working fine, or the fault which we have diagnostic was the right fault, and the repair work have been carried out or not, have been carried correctly or not. So that is related to temporary release for testing and positioning purpose. Once you have performed, then again you will again put that electrical equipment and system into into the logout and tagout. So these are basically the elements of control which we have covered in 120.4b, the elements of control. So there are 14 elements of control which we have covered now. So in 120.4, it's divided into two parts, planning and elements of control. So there are 5 planning part and 14 elements of control. Yes, any questions or any clarification required on this one? Right? Okay. So you can see that the NFPA has provided a sample of the logout and tagout program in your in the annexure. Just a second, please. Yes, you can look into your informative annexure D, where there is a sample logout and tagout program is given. So that could make a basis for you to develop your own organization logout and tagout program based on the guidelines given here in your annexure G. Right. Moving to Article 120.5, which talks about the process for establishing and verifying an electrically safe work condition. So 120.5 talks about these steps. And so there are 8 steps for ensuring an electrically safe work condition. So use your NFPA 70 to place the 8 steps of an electrically safe work condition verification in the correct order. So these are the 8 steps. Those are not in the correct order. Just try to think that what should be the correct order of these eight steps. Okay, in next 2 to 3 minutes, just try to do this one, that which step should come first. For example, determining all sources of electrical supply to equipment. Yes, this is correct. Then visually verify all the blades are open. No, up till now I have not performed any job. So release, interrupt the load current, then open the disconnecting device for each source. Yes. So the correct step is 1, 3. First, I will determine all sources of energy. Then I will release and interrupt the load current. Then the third step, I will going to visually verify that all the blades are fully open or the circuit breakers are withdrawn. Yes. So 1, 3, 2 is the sequence up till now. For remaining, just try to do. If you want to refer to the standard or you just want to try it. Okay. Just give a try. So the sequence is starting sequence is 1, 3, and 2. Yep. So let's review the answer. 1, 2, 3 is the right option. Then 4 and 5, release stored electrical energy, release stored mechanical energy. After releasing, we have to apply the logout and tagout device. Step number 7. Then after applying the logout and tagout, we will going to test each phase for the verify for the absence of voltage. And then in the last, we will apply the temporary protective grounding. So these are the steps of which is mentioned in Article 120.5. Determine all sources of electrical energy, properly interrupt the load current, visually verify the absence of visually verify all plates are open, release stored electrical energy, released or block mechanical energy, apply logout and tagout device, test each phase conductor or circuit parts, apply temporary protective grounding where necessary. So if we look into the steps, first step is determining all sorts of possible energy from by the single line diagram. Then properly interrupting the load current and opening the disconnecting means for each sources. Then verifying whether the plates are open or not. Release stored electrical energy, release or block mechanical energies. Then the apply logout and tagout device in accordance with the documented and established procedure. 7th step is the verification for the absence of voltage, and the last step is to provide those shorting grounding. So these are the 8 steps which need to be followed in sequence as per 70. So the sequence cannot be changed. What do you think the purpose of grounding? Basically, the grounding we do at the last stage, it provides protection against electric shock to person while working on de-energized circuit. We don't ground circuits which are live or which are energized. Basically, we ground circuits which have been put into an electrically safe work condition, but still, if there is some chances due to re-energization or malfunctioning, that may cause electric shock. There is a possibility that induced voltage or stored electrical energy exists. Yes. Grounding is always required for an electrically safe work condition. This is not the mandatory requirement, or the 8th step in establishing an electrically safe work condition is not the mandatory step. So this is not the option. De-energizing circuit could accidentally be energized. Yes, this is also right. So A, B, D are the right options. Temporary protective equipment are placed to prevent each employee from. So why we are putting those temporary protective grounding? To prevent each employee from shock hazard. We are not putting those temporary protective grounding to protect employee from our flash hazard. No, this is basically to prevent employee from the shock hazard. So B is the right answer. Establishing and verifying an electrically safe work condition shall include all steps to be performed in sequence. Yes, we cannot change the sequence which is given in the standard, because if we're going to change the sequence, what will going to happen? For example, this type of incident, this particular person might have changed the sequence, like he has followed all the sequence, but before verification for the absence of voltage, he have put the grounding there. So one step he has changed that has resulted in an flashover. So establishing and verifying the absence of verifying an electrically safe work condition shall include all steps to be performed in the sequence from 120.51 to 120.58. So those all steps should be in sequence. Okay, some exam-based question. Installed a new relay on the door of a 480 volt switchgear cubicle. Where do you think qualified person should begin with? So it's about the installation. First, he should determine all sources of electrical supply or energy. So this is the first step which he needs to done. So C is the right answer. No, after determining, he will not go directly to apply the logout and tagout. First, he will going to determine all source of electrical energy. Then he will going to interrupt. And then he will going to verify whether the blades are open. or not. Then he will going to apply the log out and tag out. Then he will going to do the absence of voltage, etc. Okay, so first step is determining all sources of electrical energy supply. Which of the following statements about the logout and tagout devices are true? So the employer must provide a log or tagout device. Yes, this is right. A device must identify the individual. Yes, this is right. The device must be suitable for the environment. Yes, this is right. A lock must be kept a combination. This is about lock or device. A device must be suitable. A device must identify the individual. All employee must prove. Oh, first step is the all employee must provide the log. This is not the correct. It's an employer responsibility. The employee must provide a log and tagout devices. This is the wrong option. B, C, and D are the right answer because it's an employer responsibility. In complex logout and tagout, the key or combination for a log must be held by. For a complex, it is with the person in charge. So person in charge is the right answer. In complex logout and tagout, the key or combination held with the person in charge. Right. So what type of the questions you can expect from article 120.4 A and B? So we have seen in 120.4, there are 5 there: locating sources, exposed person, person in charge, simple logout and tagout, complex logout and tagout. And in 120.4 B, there are 14. So this type of the question will you might be facing an exam. In what section of NFPA 70 can the requirements for logout and tagout procedure to control the stored electrical energy be found? So you will refer to article 120.4b, where there are 14 elements of control. You will going to find that it is covered in 120.4b2 about the stored energy. Another type of the question: in what section of 70 can the requirements for logout and tagout procedure to locate all energy sources can be found? So this is related to the planning requirement, and we see that 120.4A1 is where it talks about locating all the energy sources. So this is the right answer. Another one: in what section of NFPA 70 can the requirements for verifying the absence of voltage in the logout and tagout procedure be found? So this is related to elements of control in 120.4b. So it is found here in 120.4bc for the verifying for the absence of voltage. So these type of the question you can expect in exam, where they will be asking you about different that where you will going to find this one. So that's why it's an open book exam. You don't have to memorize anything, but only what you have to keep. Remember that where you will going to find that particular information. Right. What safe work practices to be adopted after leaving work site unattended? So as per 70, you have to re-verify the absence of voltage when the site have remained unattended. So by remain unattended means if a person have went for a break, tea break, or a toilet break, etc., and the site have been left unattended. So we should at least verify the absence of voltage before touching. Right. So informative annexure G, this you have to go and self-read about the sample logout and tagout program, which we have discussed. And by this, we have completed our module on module number 3, which covers our article 120, and approximately more than 50% of the exam content we have covered already after completing this module. So now it's up to you people to start reading the standard. Most of the things I have covered from the standard, so you will be finding the exact wording in the standard with the explanations. Okay, so I have covered up till this page, the process for establishing and verifying the electrically safe work conditions. So till page number 23 we have covered from the standard. In the next session we will be starting article 130, work involving electrical hazard, inshallah. Is any question up till now? All good. So we will be stopping today here because I have to do some preparation for tomorrow's seher. And see you all on Friday. Okay. And Ramzan Mubarak to all. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.